Hey everyone, Andy Raffel from eTeknix.com, and today we're looking at the ASUS ROG STRIX Z490-E gaming. Let's do this. The ASUS TUF RX 5600 XT, a match made in heaven for those who are serious about 1080p gaming, incorporating advanced fan technology to improve airflow and silence without compromise. Each card undergoes rigorous testing and 144-hour validation to make sure it still performs to its best, even when pushed to the limit. Click the link in the description to find out more. Now, before I get started, there is a little bit of a caveat. We're actually filming this before we're testing the CPU, so we are going to have all of the results, including benchmarks and overclocking, at the end of this video, so definitely stick around for that. But let's jump straight into the E-gaming. Now, I've always actually been a massive fan of the Strix E and Strix F gaming. They seem to offer pretty decent styling, some pretty amazing features for a pretty reasonable price point. Now, in terms of the pricing on this, Z490 does have a little bit of a premium compared to Z390. So we are looking at about $299.99 US, as well as $299.99 pounds. Now, in comparison to the Z390, that does come in a little bit more expensive because that was at launch an MSRP of $240. So do we actually get a lot more for our money now that we've moved up to Z490? We know that we do get a few things thanks to the chipset, like USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C and things like that, as well as Wi-Fi 6. But what about the actual styling of the board? Now, in terms of the styling, it's pretty, I don't want to say the word plain because that makes it sound cheap and simple, but it is plain. What I mean by that is most of it is black with black and kind of grayish kind of accents. Now, what that actually means is that this is going to fit in any type of system. You could control how it looks through, your, I don't know, custom cables or LED lighting and things like that. Now, talking about LED lighting, there are a few areas on the board. So we have an area up by the rear I/O as well as on the PCH chipset cooler. If you want to kind of take that one step further, then you will find that there's two addressable and two non-addressable RGB headers on here. So you could plug in your RGB fans, LED strips, or even some lighting hubs that will kind of extend them 2 ports of each out into up to, say, 6, for instance. In terms of the CPU socket, we've got quite a lot of room here, even for the VRMs to breathe. So this does have a 14+2 power phase design with Digi Plus VRM to give you the cleanest and most stable power possible. To provide that power, there's a single 8-pin and a single 4-pin power connector, and the 8-pin has ASUS's patented ProCool technology, which means that it has solid pins as well as a little bit of armored shielding around there. And it does kind of add to the premium look of the board. In terms of cooling down them VRMs, we have got quite a lot going on in terms of the 3 heat sinks around the CPU socket, which are all joined by a single heat pipe. Now, when it comes to that heat pipe, ASUS actually claimed that it has an extended heatsink, the one below the CPU socket. What this means is that the heat pipe doesn't actually go all the way, but the heatsink sort of carries on past that. Now, this is actually said to reduce the temperatures of the VRMs by up to 5 degrees. So it's going to be interesting to see if that is actually the case. The cooling doesn't just stop there though. We do have a cooler kind of heatsink over the PCH chipset as well as over the M.2 slots, of which there are 2, and we'll talk about them in a little bit of detail a little bit later on. In terms of memory support, we have 4 DIMM slots supporting up to 128 gig of 4600 MHz memory with OptimM2 support, which is said to reduce latency as well as give extra stability and compatibility with various different memory modules. For all your storage needs, there's 6 Sata ports on here. Nothing too out of the ordinary there. There's 2 M.2 slots, which I've got to put this in here as well. There's no confirmation from ASUS that it has PCI Express 4.0 support because the Rocket Lake CPUs that will enable that functionality aren't available to actually validate it. So ASUS don't want to claim that it supports one thing and then when the CPUs come out, we find out that it doesn't. So maybe it might be a nice little surprise when that does happen, or maybe the functionality is just not there. There's nothing that we can confirm at this time. In terms of expansion slots on the board, there are 3 X1 slots as well as 3 X16 slots. Now, the top 2 X16 slots, if you're populating both of them, will operate at X8 speeds, while the third slot will operate at X4 speeds at all times. In terms of connectivity options for the front panel of your case, you have what we'd expect from Z490, USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C, as well as USB 3.2 Gen 1 and USB 2.0 headers. Now, I did mention earlier that this board is coming out a little bit more expensive than what the Z390 counterpart came out when that was actually launched, and there's a very, very good reason. Down the bottom, it actually has a Thunderbolt header. So if you used a Thunderbolt EX card like ASUS make, with Thunderbolt 3 technology, you can plug it into this board and away you go. You can get blistering fast 40 gigabit per second Thunderbolt 3 speeds. So maybe that's why this has just got that extra little premium cost to it. It's also worth noting that while this is, I guess, classed as a mid-range board, it does have a debug LED on it, which is especially handy for when you're doing things like overclocking or just general troubleshooting. Personally, I would have liked to have maybe seen a few more buttons and things like that for overclocking, but I get kind of that it's not aimed at that. If you want something like that, you could always move up to the hero boards, formula boards, extreme boards, and everything else that ASUS have to offer, which is going to cost you a little bit more money. Down in this part of the board, we do have our audio, which is the ASUS ROG Supreme FX, which is going to give you HD quality audio, and it does have some pretty decent capacitors on there as well, and it's completely shielded from the rest of the PCB. And lastly, looking at the rear I/O, which something I love, the fact that they have it completely built into the board, so you don't have to worry about trying to find that I/O shield plate inside the box. You will find that it has got HDMI and DisplayPort, so iGPU capabilities are there. We do have a BIOS flashback button, plenty of USB, including 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C and Type-A, USB 3.2 Gen 1, and USB 2.0. We also have our Ethernet, which is 2.5G, just to give you a little bit faster speeds. We have Intel Wi-Fi 6AX, and then our HD audio, which every single connector has gold-plated connectors on there, as well as an optical SP diff. So on the rear I/O, it seems like it's pretty much got everything. Maybe one thing I would have liked to have seen is a Thunderbolt connector, but I get it, you're gonna have to buy the extra card and plug into that connector on the board. So there you go, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. And remember, we have got all of the overclocking, all of the benchmark results, everything at the end of this video. It's just the fact that timelines didn't quite kind of match up, so we are having to record this before actually testing. So let me know in the comments section below, once you've actually looked through all them results, what you think about this board, how it compares with other boards out there that we've compared it against. And yeah, we'll see what we think from there. Maybe we'll do another video where we really kind of delve into all of the results and stuff, and maybe we'll do that at launch. So there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know exactly what to do, and I will see you in the next one. See you later, guys.